All right, so what we've got here is the first junior developer challenge from the Unity course, the junior developer course. So what we're going to do is I've already imported the assets. So the way you do that is you go to this assets tab, you go to import package, custom package, and then you'd find the folder where those assets are located that you've downloaded them to. They've essentially given us some tasks to do, but let's go ahead and play this so we can see what is going on, what they've given us. Oh, and the plane is gone. Oh, there we go. So I'll zoom out a little bit more so you can see a little better. So as you can see, the plane is moving pretty quickly, probably way too quickly for a player to control it to go through any of those obstacles. It is also moving backwards and it's also rotating at a very continuous speed. I do not have any control over that. So let's go ahead and stop that. The challenges they've set up for us are: first, plane is going backwards. Got to fix that. Two, the plane is going too fast. At that speed, it'd be like impossible to get through any of those obstacles. Third, it is constantly tilting. It is moving in that loop-de-loop. We want to fix that. So give the player control. Next, if you look at that bottom screen I have set here, this is the game view here. So this is my scene view. This is my game view. This is what you'll see when you play the game. So the camera looks like it's in front. Yeah, it's a front view of our plane. Also, the camera is not following. As you can see, if we zoom out a little bit, this course, is decently long. If we were to have the camera just kind of stay there and not follow the plane, there's no way you'd be able to navigate through that because you wouldn't see where you are. And then last, they've given us a bonus kind of task. As you can see on the front of this plane here, there's a little propeller. They want it to rotate along a specific axis, right? So let's go ahead and let's solve that first issue. First issue is the plane is moving backwards. So they've given us two scripts, a player controller script and a player follow a follow player script. So those are the scripts we're going to use to kind of make all these changes. So let's take a look at it. So of course, so we got a public class player controller. Okay, that's what they've named it. It inherits from mono behavior. That's what these little dots here are for. They've given us three variables, all public. So a float, a speed, a float for rotation speed, and a float for vertical input. Okay, there's nothing in the start because this is called before the first frame update, and everything is in this update. So what that means is that once per frame, these things will be kind of called. So what we've got here for our first thing is a variable called vertical input. All that is it's taking the input, we're getting the access that we're inputting that user input on, and that access is the vertical. It's just a string literal that they use for the controller. So whether it be like an Xbox controller, PlayStation controller, whatever you have it set up for this project, it's specifically set to the up and down arrow keys, and I believe maybe W and S as a backup. But it's saying we're getting that input, then we're going to get that access, the input we want, and we want it in the vertical, right? The plane goes up and down for this game, the way they want it set up. And then we have here the transform, right? Dot translate on vector3 dot back times the speed. So what that is that's essentially the movement, right? That's the movement the plane is going to be. We want it to move forward. So if you guys can see, I'm sure it's pretty easy to see. Right now, that vector3 is set to back. We want that to be forward, right? That's going to change our plane to move forward, and then it's going to move forward along that speed. We won't worry about that for right now. We'll change that when we get to that challenge, but let's take it in steps. Let's go ahead and go back to, let's close this out just for now. All right, it's updating. Okay, cool. So now if we hit play, let's see if I saved it right. Okay. You can see it moved forward, right? It came towards the game view. Again, still moving way too fast. We'll solve that issue. So let's go ahead and move on to that next challenge. So we want the plane to move slower, right? The way we've done that is we've created a variable for that plane, or they've given us a variable. If we go click on the player, which is our plane, you can look here. We've got speed, we've got rotation speed, we've got vertical input. So the vertical input is going to be the input we get from our user, right? The up or down when we give them that functionality. The speed is the speed of the plane. So if I were to change that to just go for 1, or actually not 12, that would still be pretty quick. All right, so, oh, all right. So the plane is moving forward. It is now moving. It's still moving a little too fast, maybe, unless you're really good at flying. So let's change that to like a 0.6 for now. Oh, it did not. No, it did not change. Let's go to 0.6. There we go. So now let's try that again. Hit play. Awesome. Okay, look, it's moving at pretty manageable speed. I think I could fly that through that little hole once I get control. But another way we can do this is we change it here on the player controller, speed, rotation, speed, vertical. We could also go into that script again that we have here. Give this 0.6, give it an F because it is a float. That's what we signified here, float speed. So that would just be another way to do it. We don't want to mess with any of those. Okay. So the next challenge they've given us is that the plane is consistently tilting. As you can see, it's doing that loop-de-loop before. So we want to give the user the ability to, play the game, right? We got to give them control. So if you guys look at this, we have this to move the plane forward. This is the variable for that vertical input. This right here is going to be what actually moves the plane up and down. So what we need to do is we need to take this vertical input and put it somewhere in here so that it's taking that input from the user and doing something with it, right? We have this variable that we're not utilizing at all. So the way we want to do that is the way it's set up right now. So we've got transform and not translate, but rotate. Vector 3, it's going right. So it's, again, moving that loop-de-loop. But it's doing that times that rotation speed. That rotation speed is 100. And then it's doing it times time that delta time. So the best way to do that is we're going to not times the rotation speed, because it's just going to move at 100. So it's going to be rotating at 100 on that whole thing. We're actually going to comma. And then what we're going to do is we're going to leave that rotation speed there. But we're going to times that by our variable, vertical input, right? That's going to be that user input, the up and down to get them to go. This last thing, don't have to change it. Super cool there. Let's see. I've got all my things in place. Those should be good. Let's go ahead and make sure. I think I saved, so I shouldn't have any issues. I don't think. And huzzah, our plane is now moving forward. But let's actually see if we can control it. I'm going to hold up. Oh, okay, cool. If I hold up, it does a little loop. I can go back. So it's like pulling up and down on a yoke, right? Let's see if I can get it through that. Nope. It's a little bit tricky to see. So what we want to do next is, we want to move the camera to a beneficial place for the person to play, right? So they've given us this main camera. That is essentially what you're seeing on that bottom screen there. So what I'm going to do is we'll double click it. Boom. Okay, that's where our camera is. Okay, that's not a great spot for it. So let's kind of move it closer. Let's maybe move it like right on top of our plane for now. And let's move it out because they want a side view and 180, right? So that's not right. We want to move this on the y-axis. We want it to rotate so it's facing. So let's do 90. Nope. Let's do -90. There we go. Okay, so now the plane is in view. It's actually a pretty good spot. Yeah, so let's go ahead. That issue solved. The next one they have is the camera is not following the plane, right? So we have a script that they've given us through context clues. We can tell that that's probably the one they want us to mess with, the follow player. All right, so let's go ahead and open that. Okay, they've given us a public class, follow player, again, mono behavior. Okay, cool, here we go, game object. That's gonna be useful for later on. We've got this vector 3 offset and then transform that position. Okay, so this is going to be the thing that moves our camera, right? So once we attach it somehow to our plane object, this is going to basically get it to follow that. So let's go ahead. A really, really easy way to do that is to go to our main camera here. As you can see, there's that object. So again, they've created this game object, right? There's nothing selected. So what we're going to do, our player, we want it to follow our player. Typically, our camera will follow our player, right? And then let's just kind of hit play. Let's see what happens. Oh, okay, so cool. We're now following our player. The issue is we can't really see too well, right? I can see the wheel of my plane. So what we got to do is we got to edit that script. So we got to offset that camera somehow. So again, super little simple thing to do if you know how to do it. So we'll go back to our follow player. And then what we're going to do is we're going to utilize this kind of offset here. We're going to make that equal something, right? So we want a new position. So we're going to use the new keyword, right? And then what we're going to do after that is we're going to, just like before, we're going to give it a vector 3. Okay. So we want the camera to be like away from it, right? So it's not moving up. It's not moving out like on the Y or Z axis. So we got to move it against, it's horizontal, right? It's offset away from it on that horizontal plane. So let's just try 30. Let's see if 30 works. Let's fill space and just for, all right. So now this offset is equal to new. We're giving it a new vector where to be. It is on that plane object, but it now should be offset about that 30 like in-game units away from the plane. So if we close that, let's make sure I'm not having any syntax errors. Nope. And let's hit play. Let's see what happens. All right. So now, okay, that's more manageable. Oh, God. Oh. All right, so a little more user on that one. We can now see our plane. It's in the view, right? I can go up and down, kind of navigate through these obstacles. There's a little issues. I can move it, but we've got the camera in a pretty solid position, right? So that's all the challenges that they kind of have set up for us, but they do have this bonus challenge, right? So that bonus challenge again was they want us to get this propeller to move. So the way we'll do that is if you again look up here in our hierarchy, we have our player, right? That's our plane. It's got this little child component or this child component here called the propeller. It's just a little propeller object they've created. You can see we've got these 3 axes, right? We want it to do what? They want us to rotate. So if we look over on our right in our inspector and under our transform, we've got position, rotation, and scale. Okay, we know we want this thing to rotate and to rotate like a propeller does. Let's just go through the list, trial and error. So let's mess with the x-axis. Okay, no, that's definitely not right. That would not really get it going. Let's try the y-axis. Nope. All right, so, through elimination. Oh, there we go. Let's actually do a little bit higher. 23. Okay, yeah. So we know, again, the X is that horizontal axis, the Y is the vertical axis, and the Z is going to get it to turn on those 2 like planes. So we know we need to modify the Z axis. So we're just going to go to the scripts folder here because we want to keep everything super organized, create a new C# script. We'll just call it propeller rotation. And then we're sticking to convention. We capitalize the first, keep it together, capitalize the second word. And then since everything else they've given us has an X after it, we'll just put an X there for now. All right, so propeller rotation. Cool, this one shouldn't be too hard. Again, propeller rotation X, mono behavior. This is just what the typical script looks like when you create it. So what we need to do is we need to transform, right? We need to transform, and then what are we wanting to do, right? We don't want to translate it, right? That's going to get to move like forward, up and down, so on, or sorry, forward. The way our plane is moving up and down is it's rotating, right? So we want this to rotate on that other axis. So always forget this sometimes because I'm doing that. And then we went through trial and error, right? It's not on the x-axis. It's not on the y-axis. It's on that z-axis. So let's just do 2 for now. So again, this is going to update. That update, the void.update, that's or that function right there is going to on every frame, right? So let's go ahead and almost forgot. Always make sure to add that because I tend to forget. Close out of that. Let's zoom out. And let's hit play. Let's see if it actually works. All right. I honestly can't tell. Or is it moving too slow? Oh, we forgot one thing. Okay, so, right, we created this nice script, right? But we didn't actually attach it to the propeller. So if we go to that propeller, easy way, you can grab it, drag it, drop it. So now we have this propeller rotation script, right? Another way we can do that, hit add component, search for it. So let's try that again. Now that we actually have it on there, and lo and behold, our propeller is rotating. Our plane is moving. We're going through the obstacles. Oh, barely made it through the last one. But yeah, so all the challenges completed. Again, they wanted us to fix those little bugs. Plane was going backwards. It's moving way too fast. The way we fixed that was in that player controller. As you can look here on the right, we changed that back to a forward. Then we gave the vertical input into our rotation to fix that rotation. We changed the speed. I changed it here as well as in the inspector. You can do it either way, but I recommend doing it in the script just so you have that. We could also probably change those to private at some point just because that's going to be specific to this. But we don't have to worry about that now. Then we went into our follow player. They had us, we had this nice little function down here on the update that was basically following the player, but we didn't have the player set as the actual game object. So all we did was we dragged that player game object into the plane, which gave it that variable. And then we changed this offset to this new vector3, offsetting it 30 horizontal. I might make it a little bit closer just so it's easier to see. But that's what we did there. And then we had that last little thing where we created a transform.rotate on the x-axis to get that propeller to rotate. So again, if we hit play, boom, we can, let's see if I can make it through all of them. Come on. Oh, up. Oh. I'll have to keep trying. But yeah, so first challenge done. They've got a few more. I've looked into them a little bit. They look kind of interesting, look super fun. But yeah,